So we know that a lot of people are up in arms this morning because the brother Larry Hoover was pardoned. And I will say that he deserved to be pardoned after more than 50 years of incarceration for a 1973 case that he caught when he unalived someone in 1973. So, Larry Hoover, as the state would call him or refer to him as a notorious gang kingpin out of Chicago. I would refer to him as a brother who has changed his life. Now, let's get it straight. He was pardoned of federal charges, not state charges. The state charges are for the 1973 unaliving of a 19-year-old young man in Chicago. That's what the state charges were for, and he was given 150 to 200 years in prison for that. As if it's possible for him to live 150 years, let alone 200 years. But nonetheless, that was his sentence. And so, here we are, 5 decades later, and the president just pardoned Larry Hoover of the charges. I want to know what you all think about this, because personally, I believe in redemption. I believe in second chances. I believe that people change. I believe that people grow out of criminal thinking. I believe that anyone who says that they believe in God have to believe in second chances, or you do not believe in God. If you say you believe in God, then you have to believe in redemption, or you don't believe in God. If you say you believe in God, then you have to have mercy in you, or you don't believe in God. With that being said, it is just my opinion, based on my experience, that we grow out of that nothing way of thinking. We grow out of that criminal way of thinking, that misogynistic way of thinking, that narcissistic way of thinking. We grow out of that. And when you have served 20, 30, 40, 50 years in prison, you grow out of thinking like you once thought all of those years ago. We have to believe that people grow and change for the better. We know some people that tend to change for the worse. We do. We all know someone like that. But we also know so many people that grow and change for the better. And we have to give people the benefit of the doubt. See, because we will sit up and pray every day. We will sit up and pray every night that God blesses us with another day, that God blesses us with the things that we envision in our minds that we want for ourselves and how we want our future to be. We will do this every day. We will go to church every Sunday, to the mosque every Friday and Saturdays and stuff. We'll do these things because we truly believe that through God, things are going to be made right in our life. He's going to give us a chance. I'm going to say Islam to all my Moors, all my Muslims. Say good morning to everyone. But we have to begin to understand the significance of forgiveness. We have to begin to understand the importance of forgiveness. Because if we do not have a forgiving bone in our body, we're destined to meet our hell. If we do not have a forgiving bone in our body, hell awaits us. We have to be forgiving of people. We have to understand that we all make mistakes. Some of our mistakes are more deeper than others, more grave than others. But we all make mistakes because we all are human beings. And when we can realize that and embrace that fact, we will learn to forgive one another. We will learn there's nothing a person can do in life that is unforgivable. You may not mess with that person again. You may not deal with that person again. You may not walk and talk with that person again. You may not be friends with that person again. But all conduct is forgivable. If you believe in God, like so many people say they do, then there is no way possible that you should ever utter out of your mouth that this conduct is unforgivable. Because we pray to God that he forgives us of things we've done. We pray to God that he forgives our family members and friends of things that they've done. We pray to God that he give our sons and daughters a second chance, that he shield them, protect them on their way to and from schools and work, etc. Quentin Gerard, he said, 47 is a black man best friend. Just give him a chance. I guess he's talking about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump did sign the pardon that releases Larry Hoover from federal custody. Larry Hoover still has state charges pending against him for a 1973 unaliving of a 19-year-old young man. Now, the young man was 19 in 1973, which was the original charge against. Now, in 1987, Larry Hoover, who is now 74 years old, he's a 74-year-old man. In 1997, he was given 6 life sentences, 6 of them, federal life sentences. So we have to begin to measure what society is indoctrinating us to believe. First of all, he was given, in 1973, he was given 150 to 200 years in prison. That's beyond anyone's life expectancy, obviously. And so to give someone that amount of time is gratuitous, barbaric, and malicious, cruel and unusual. So, but nonetheless, he was given a 200-year state sentence following the 1973 Illinois unaliving conviction. Then How did he get the federal sentences? The life sentence in the federal prison. Because in 1997, they said that he was still calling shots in a gang. You know, he is said to be the founder and kingpin of the Chicago so-called gang members known as the Gangster Disciples. So they say he was still calling shots from prison. And they say he ordered, when he say, take a life is took. He was still allegedly involved in drug deals and things like that. These are allegations made against this man, 74-year-old man now. He obviously is not the man he was back then in 73 or 97 for that matter. But nonetheless, certain pundits are trying to condemn this pardon, saying that he doesn't deserve it. Saying that he doesn't deserve it. But they will be the same people who go to church on Sunday morning and ask God for forgiveness. Watch over their families. Protect us. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think. Are you a forgiving individual? Do you believe in second chances? If this were your brother, your father, your son, your friend, would you believe that this person is deserving of a second chance? Mind you, he's 74 years old. And statistics show that people grow out of crime. They don't grow in, they grow out of crime. And also, I think we have to really delve into, people have to really know the history of 1973 police. Let's just keep it real, y'all. You can go back to the 60s with the Black Panthers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, all of these brothers were railroaded, conspired against by the government because they wielded a certain influence and power. And because of that wielding of power and influence over so many people, all of them became a target. And this is the story that no one wants to talk about. Yes, Larry Hoover was in prison, 50 plus years. Yes, he allegedly committed a crime for which he was convicted of in 1973. Yes, he had influence over a great amount of young men in Chicago, still by 1997. He still had influence. But is he the same man that he was then? I beg to differ. I beg to differ because I literally have been in those same shoes. And I am not the person that I once was when I went to prison almost 35 years ago now. I'm not the same guy. When my sentence was reversed in 2017, I was no longer that guy. I was no longer the guy that people knew from the street, knew in the streets, knew about the streets. That wasn't me. In fact, so many people today, when they hear my story, they can't believe that I'm that guy that once did that. And I always tell them, I'm not that guy. I was being somebody that I was not back then. I was being someone that I was not. That required me to always put on a mask in every room I went into because I had to adopt instead of just being me. I had to grow out of that criminal mindset. And I did. Many people grow out of the criminal mindset that got them in prison or got them locked up. Many people grow out of it. But if you are not willing to give someone a chance, then you're never going to see them grow out of it. You're never going to believe they grow out of it because you're not willing to give a second chance to anyone. But yet, when you or your loved one is in that same situation, it may not be as a serious a crime, but in that same situation, you want to ask for forgiveness. You want the court to give you the minimal sentence. You want the court to have some mercy. You want the court to believe that you deserve a second chance. That's categorically what we do. We don't go in the courtroom, or it may not even be some criminal court, in the civil court or probate court or some other type of court, even in divorce court. You're asking the judge to believe you and have mercy on you because you have been wronged or you're willing to change your life or you have changed your life. This is what we do. Someone asked, is Larry Hoover free or is his sentence only been reduced? Larry Hoover is not free. His federal sentence was commuted, fully pardoned from his federal sentence of 6 life sentences. He now has 150 to 200 years of state time for the original charge for what he came to prison for in 1973. The 6 life sentences came in the 90s, like 97. So he's not getting right out of prison, no. But everything is looking up for him. Everything is looking up for him right now. And I believe, just from my experience with the system and me going through the system myself, I do believe that he will be out. Hell, they let Big Meech out. I'm sure he'll be out. And I'm going to read this. It say, President Trump has commuted the federal life sentence for infamous Chicago-born gangster disciple founder Larry Hoover, abruptly ending Hoover's years-long quest to win early release under the First Step Act passed during Trump's first term. So the 2-page order said Hoover's sentence was considered served with no further fines, restitution, probation, or other conditions, and directed the U.S. Bureau of Prisons to release him immediately, according to a copy of the document provided by Hoover's legal team. That means to release him immediately is talking about from federal custody. So, yes, he still has 150 to 200 year sentence in state court for the 1973 unaliving of a 19-year-old man. Said Uh, but Hoover isn't going free. He's still serving a 200-year sentence for a state court conviction for unaliving someone. Officials with the Illinois Department of Corrections have previously said they would push for Hoover to finish his state sentence in federal prison due to security concerns. So now they just want to violate his rights all over again. So the state officials in Illinois have said that they would push for Hoover to finish out his sentence, his death sentence in the federal prison because they don't want him in a state prison. They don't want him in a state prison. Ain't that something? So here it is. The man, 6 life sentences have been pardoned because somebody believed in some form of redemption, second chances. Yes, we all make bad choices. We all make bad choices. Some are more serious than others, but nonetheless, it's a bad choice. I don't like to get caught up in the white lie and the black lie. A lie is a lie. It's like if you was to slap me with the front of your hand or the back of your hand, I still got slapped. So let's stop trying to make something seem different because the bad decision that he made was more serious than the bad decision that you made when you broke somebody's trust, betrayed someone. So anyway, I'm going to read on. It says, in his statement to Tribune, Hoover's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, called Trump's decision a historic development after years of fighting in federal court. The courts have demonstrated a complete unwillingness to consider Mr. Hoover's rehabilitation, Bonjean wrote. Sometimes the courts do not do the right thing, but thanks to the work of so many advocates and supporters keeping Mr. Hoover's voice alive, and ultimately the president taking action to deliver justice, we're thrilled to see Mr. Hoover released. Now it's time for the IDOC to do the right thing. The IDOC is the Illinois Department of Corrections. An IDOC spokesperson could not immediately be reached. They don't want to be reached right now. They don't want to be reached right now because they don't want to see that man free at all. Because I'm going to tell you the conspiracy behind Illinois not wanting him to be free, the state. Because if they truly believe that Larry Hoover still has influence, he still has influence over the so-called gangster disciples of Chicago, those young men and women who are part of gangs, if they think that he has any influence and he can raise his hand and the violence stops, he could go into a room and it becomes packed with people who have joined the so-called gang that he founded, and they're willing to listen to him, and they're willing to stand down, and they're willing to bring peace, find peace, advocate for peace, put down guns, stop the violence. Then all of these things take the jobs away from those correctional officers. So they don't want him out. They don't. Because he has their jobs in his hands. They don't want him out. It's all political now. They don't want Larry Hoover on the streets at all because his presence resonates with the people. He's 74 years old and he still resonates and has influence with the people. When he say, stop the violence, That's what that means. Those people listen to him. But stopping the violence means that they don't need that many police on the streets anymore. They don't need that many more correctional officers. So keeping him locked up is job security for them. That's how they keep their job. So listen, y'all. This brother just posted on my feed. He say that he remembered the whole Larry Hoover story and that Larry Hoover can change gang members in Chicago, all around the world. He can change people because think of it like this here. If you was growing up and your mother always told you about this guy, your brother always told you about this guy, and this guy was like, he was your father, and he is where you got all your ways from. But he's no longer here. He's locked up, and we know he was railroaded. So by a system in 1973 that was truly wicked, and still wicked today, but in 1973 was truly wicked. So now that person is taken out of your life. That person is locked up. That person has been muzzled. That person has been restricted. That person has been given a death sentence. That person has been given 6 death sentences and so much more. And this is who you always been taught to look up to. You're going to act a fool because this is your father. So, this is like your father. But the state has taken him away and refuses to release him, even while he's 74 years old. All you want to do is see your father free. That will make all the difference in your life. It don't wipe away all your problems, but boy, does it take away a lot of them. So, because if you could get your father back in your life, that would make all the difference with the choices that you make. Because now you could talk to the source whom you got a lot of your ways from, whom you rebel against the system because of. So Larry Hoover has great influence, and the system does not want his influence to change the lives and change the culture and the environment, the volatile environment in the state of Illinois and around the United States. They don't want it because now he would come out and do what the state hasn't been able to do. Stop the violence, slow down the violence, convince men and women to put the guns down. His voice will be able to do that what the state have been spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on to do. He could do just by stepping in the room. So in their eyes, he has more power than them. And they don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want this gang member, gang founder, gang kingpin to have more power than them. It goes against the system. And then his freedom, think of it like this, y'all. His freedom is a financial move. It will cause them to lose certain amounts of money because of his freedom. Because again, if his presence can influence people to stop violence, put the guns down, etc., then this means that his influence takes away the need for so many jobs for police on the streets. Takes away the need of jobs for so many correctional officers in the prison system, because a lot of the young men and women are not going to prison because they father home. They father home. Believe me, I understand. I understand. Some people would like to see this man's life end in prison. Some people would like to see that because you can't help your influence. Once you become an influential individual, you can't turn that influence off. People hang on to your every word. People hang on to your every word, and because people hang on to your every word, you become known as infamous. You become known as a gangster. You become known as a criminal. But ain't that what politics about every single day? They want people to hang on to their every word. That's why they keep on repeating those same commercials and infomercials and posts on social media, because they want you to hang on to their every word. They want to influence the way you think. They want to influence everything about you. That's what politics is about. Controlling your life. Getting you to side with whatever their agenda is. When it's supposed to be about the people, but they say to hell with the people, it's about my agenda. And my agenda may not include you. 9 times out of 10, it don't include you. That's why it's called my agenda and not yours. So now, Larry Hoover, who has always been a political prisoner, and I'm not, please, no one think that I'm Islam. No one think that I'm removing any responsibility from him, guilt from him, or anything. What I'm saying is the system is so jacked up and corrupt that you have to question it. You can't just accept when the system say a person did a thing. You can't just accept it, because we've seen what the system have done to people. We've seen the historical factors that comes that shows what the system, how corrupt the system will become when they're trying to take someone down. Especially when they don't like that, when that person isn't influential. And we talking about from every walk of life. When they think that you are too influential, whether it's through financially or whether it's through intellectually, that you're too influential, the system will do anything that they could do to take you down. In the words of Malcolm X, by any means necessary. Because they did him by any means necessary. They did Martin Luther King by any means necessary. They did The Black Panthers, by any means necessary. Nat Turner, by any means necessary. Harriet, by any means necessary. And they do celebrities the same way. When your influence become greater than our influence, you become a target. And that's not to say that I'm not comparing a person who's engaging in wrongdoing with the person who's has the influence because he's doing something right. I'm not comparing that. But even in some of those cases, the system concocts a plan to take you down. I think that, yes, he does still have state charges. He has 150 to 200 years in a state prison. But I think that the governor is going to pardon him. I think the governor is going to pardon him because now the governor won't be the governor if he doesn't pardon him, because people are going to mount up and that governor will not get voted for. Because let's face it, Larry Hoover is, when I say hero, I don't mean in the sense that he saves everybody. But when I say he's the hero of Chicago and so many parts of Illinois, he's a hero to him in the sense that he's still influential. And he's changed his life and he's still influential. Makes a great difference when you change your life and you influential. And I think that he's changed his life. And I think that he has the influence to move people to vote. This is about politics. He has the potential, the influence to move people to vote. People who may have never voted before. People who has never voted before may vote as long as he encourages, advocates, and promotes voting. And that makes a great big difference. That's probably part of the reason why Donald Trump pardoned him. Joey G said, kind of didn't have much a choice to change. Solitary for 30 years will do that to you. I mean, I agree, but you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what made you change, as long as you change. I don't think that no one would be concerned with a man who has done away with violent thoughts and criminal thinking. I don't think that no one would be concerned with what made him change. I think they're more appreciative of the fact that he's changed. And now we can get into what made you change afterwards. Because I want to know, because I want to help other people out. I want you to help other people out. And yes, again, he still has that 150 to 200 years over his head in a state prison. But I truly believe that the governor is going to probably pardon him. I think because the state sentence is from a 1973 case. 1973. And you can't separate the pardon. Well, Trump could only pardon federal. He can't pardon state. The governor pardons state. So if the federal government said, I believe this man changed his life and he deserves a second chance, The state doesn't have to agree, but what argument could the state have if the federal government said that I believe that this man changed his life and he is deserving of a second chance? The state doesn't have legs to stand on. They can't turn around and say, I don't think he's changed, because the federal government did their research, their necessary background checks, etc. I'm going to read this to you real quick here. Bo Jean, who is Larry Hoover's attorney, and he represented Hoover when Hoover was up for parole on his state census in 2022, and he was denied. Bo Jean said, he is eligible for resentencing, but the courts have been unwilling to give him that opportunity. Notwithstanding the fact that he has literally done every single thing a human being could do to show that he has been rehabilitated. That was then. We know that he's done so much more since then. In 1993, Hoover spoke to former CBS News Chicago reporter John Davis. At the time, Hoover was 42 years old, and had already served 20 years in prison. I've done my time, Hoover said in the 1993 interview. I paid my debt to society. In the interview with Davis, the leader of the Gangster Disciples and convicted unaliver, he'd had a lot of time to think about ways to stop the gang violence on the streets of Chicago. He had a lot of time to think about ways to stop the violence on the streets of Chicago. So let's get into it, y'all. Anytime you do extensive time, it can have two effects. It can harden you or it can make you think, Hoover said at the time. And I've thought. He said in 1993 interview that he had done a lot of thinking about the senseless gang violence plaguing the streets of Chicago at the time. One teenager don't like the other teenager because of the way he wear his hat, because his ideology is different from his. A disciple don't like a vice lord. However, Hoover said in the interview, we're all black people. There's no difference. At the time, Hoover, also known as King Larry, admitted being a part of a fragile gang truce in the city and organizing a protest over plans to close healthcare clinics in African-American neighborhoods. Ron Safer, the lead prosecutor in Hoover's federal trial, expressed disappointment in the news of Hoover's sentencing being commuted. Okay, here's the prosecutor. He doing what they all do, right? This is why we don't trust them, because they don't believe in second chances. That's why when something happens to them, we have no mercy. Because if you don't believe in second chances, then you getting everything that you got coming. You getting the karma that's coming to you. That don't mean I'm wishing it upon you, but that just means that when it is upon you, I have no mercy for you. I'm going to keep on reading. The prosecutor said he was convicted of running a continual criminal enterprise that had approximately 30,000 members across 28 states. Wow. The politics are coming out. The politics, 30,000 members across 28 states. That's a voter block. 30,000 members, that's a voter block. Chicago, politicians, that's a voter block. Selling over $100 million worth of drugs in the state of Illinois alone each year. So, again, he was convicted of running a continual criminal enterprise that had approximately 30,000 members across 28 states, selling over $100 million worth of drugs in the state of Illinois each year, said Safer. And he ran that enterprise operation with ruthless efficiency from prison, where he was serving a state sentence for double murder. Safer also emphasized that about Hoover had been recorded saying teenagers needed to sell drugs for his criminal organization. The recording was made a year after the Gangsta Disciples leader was interviewed on CBS. Yeah, where's that recording at? See what I'm saying? This is the type of things that we have to ask ourselves. If he said this after the interview where he talked about the senseless violence and figuring out ways to stop this violence, if he made a recorded phone call after that, where's the recording at? Because they never showed the recording. They never presented it. It said there was another tape where Larry Hoover said, you have to share your drugs with these children. And I'm talking about 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, so that they can sell it and they can have something. Sapter said, and he said, make them know that with you, there's somebody, and without you, they're nobody. Right. Again, Sapter said, those comments were made by Hoover after the Gangsta Disciple said he was redeemed and said he understood that all of the violence in the city should be stopped. Wow. So, meanwhile, Wallace Gator Bradley, a former Gangsta Disciple enforcer, has long advocated for Hoover's release. I've been calling for it since 1992 or 93, said Bradley. I know that he has served his time. I'm happy beyond measure. Harold Nooney Ward, a former high-ranking member of the Gangsta Disciples, served time with Hoover and is now an anti-violence advocate. That's change. Everybody deserves a second chance, said Ward, adding that he is not surprised that President Trump commuted Hoover's sentence. But Sapter, that prosecutor, said he does not agree in Hoover's case. I believe in mercy. I believe in redemption, he said. I also believe that there are some crimes so heinous, so breathtakingly evil, that the justice system requires they be punished to the full extent of the law. I don't think that he punished none of those prosecutors in Chicago that unalived none of them little black boys. None of that was too heinous. None of that was breathtakingly evil. Okay. Illinois Governor J.B. Splitzer has not commented on whether he would consider commuting Hoover's sentence at the state level. But listen, interesting, y'all. This is very interesting because we have to believe, we have to stand with change. We have to stand with change. We have to stand with the belief that everyone deserves a second chance. We have to stand with the belief in faith that if we ask God for mercy, then it's only right that we have mercy. We shouldn't ask God for something that we're not willing to give. So, Larry Hoover. Larry Hoover is had his 6 federal life sentences commuted by President Trump. People are up in arms. People don't like it. People wish that he could just perish in prison. The man has been in prison since 1973. 52 years. 52 years. I think that we need to really think about that. 52 years in prison. Let that resonate on you. I've talked to so many people. I only served 28 years in prison. 28 years. And people ask me, how did you do it? How did you serve 28 years in prison? And I say, I kept waking up. I kept waking up. The door was still locked behind me. I still had to go to the same chow hall, the same shower, same bathroom, same yard, for 28 years. But I kept waking up. And when I kept waking up, I realized that I was blessed to keep waking up. I realized that I was blessed, and I said, man, I didn't have to wake up this morning because a lot of people didn't wake up. But here I am, I keep waking up. God keep waking me up. So at some point, I said, I got to change my life because I'm blessed. Bruce Jones, he asks, is Larry Hoover going to be able to adapt to this new world? Yes, he is. We just had a brother get out in Michigan just the other day. We was just with him Tuesday. He did 47 years. Happy as can be, obviously. But we got a whole community of brothers and sisters out here wrapping our arms around our brothers and sisters when they get out. Making them know that they got somebody out here. Making them know that we're not going to allow you to fail. We're going to do everything in our power. All resources are on the table. We got access to psych services, access to medical services, access to clothing, food, access to jobs. We got access to everything because when we got out, we put together, all of us put our heads together, and we put together a very great resourceful plan to make sure that we could take care of one another when we come out after all of these years. That's what we did. 47 years in prison. My homeboy just got out. I just seen him Tuesday. He ain't been out a week. And I'm not going to say he's adapting well because he's only been out a week. But what I will say, he's embracing his freedom. He's embracing it, and he's not rushing into life. He served 47 years. My other homeboy served 54 years. I only served 28 years. But that's a lifetime for some people. But this man served 52 years. He's going to have family. He's going to have friends. He's going to have his good and bad days. No, he's not out of jail. He's still in, he has his state sentence to deal with now. But I think the governor, Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to pardon him. That's just my belief. Just looking at his record. I know some people who did a lot of time and they felt safer in prison after all of them years, right? I knew a guy in prison. I remember when they told him it was his release date. I fool you not. He refused to come out that cell. He refused to come out the cell because he had been locked up so long that he didn't even know how to interpret that he was getting out of prison, let alone he was actually going to be out of prison. They literally carried that man, out of prison. And literally, I don't mean threw him out physically, but they threw him out of prison because he was scared. And that's a reality for a lot of us. That's a reality for a lot of us. Some of us get out of here so scared that if you would talk to some of us, and some of us would just be straight up with you, be truthful with you. Some of us would tell you that I did feel a little more comfortable in there because there was less responsibility. I know I got a child coming up. I'm going to be fed. I got a roof over my head. I'm all right. Chris Brown 9633, thank you, brother. The brother said I did 17 years and been home 16 years. So he will adapt. And I agree. But again, we know that there's going to be challenges. There's going to be some good days and some bad days, some ups and some downs. But at the end of those days, there's going to be people wrapped around you so tight, making sure that you don't rush upon your destruction, making sure that you absorb the freedom that life offers, making sure that you absorb the life that freedom offers. Because that's what we do in Michigan. That's what we do in the organization that I go to in California and Florida and Houston. We make sure that when brothers and sisters come home, that they feel at home. That's the key, that they feel at home. I did 9 years straight in solitary confinement and 28 years in prison. I came out here and there were so many arms wrapped around me. There were so many resources in my path. There were so many avenues of success shown to me. People walked with me. People walked with me. People held my hand. Made sure that I could see me. They didn't want me to see the world. They wanted me to see me in the world. They didn't want me just to focus on the world. They wanted me to focus on me in the world. Because once you can see you in the world, it makes all the difference. But if you just looking at the world is a scary place. The world can be intimidating. The world can be intimidating. I'm glad to see my brothers out. Bruce Jones, my brother Sticky Woods. My brother Tyrone McClain. I was 16 and got out at 38 years old and been out 10 years. I'm doing good. Congratulations to all my brothers. Listen. Native Son 68 _ NYC said, now young guys need to chill in Chicago, fall in line, stop the gunplay. Absolutely. That's why this is political now, because the government know that this man has the influence to get these young brothers and sisters to put the guns down, stop the violence. But his influence means that the government will not get all of that money that they once got before to stop the violence, because here's a man whose presence, when he steps in a room, can say something to these young people and the guns will be put down. And it's not going to be like that. But believe me, I understand because I've been in there. I've been in there. I've seen some of so-called leaders come to the prison yard. And when they come to the prison yard, all foolishness stop. I've seen it. And that's on a micro scale. He's very well respected. Christopher, 1 second, y'all. 1 second here. Christopher, we understand that he still has his state time, but we're kind of confident that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to commute his sentence. Respect for what? So we're hopeful. We're hopeful for our brother. That's our brother. No matter if you agree with some of the decisions that he made or not, he's still our brother. And it is because of that fact that he's still our brother that I stand on the fact that I am my brother's keeper. I don't have to agree with nothing that he did. He's still my brother. Just like when your mother, your father, or whoever did whatever they did, your daughter, your children, but they still your family. And that's still my brother. I understand that brother situation all too well. Not that I've ever been, targeted as he's targeted, because yes, he is targeted. He been a target. He been a target by the system. Rights. I don't want to mess up your name, but a man said that every pain I had growing up in Chicago was based on the gang culture he helped to create. Brother, I understand you. I'm definitely not challenging you. I'm definitely not minimizing your pain or the trauma that you went through. In fact, I definitely sympathize with you, understand you, and agree with what you're saying. But that's not what I'm advocating here. That's not the idea that I'm promoting here. The idea that I am promoting here is second chances. I can blame a lot of my pain, traumas on a lot of brothers and sisters that I grew up under. But they've changed their lives. For those who are still alive, they've changed their lives. And I love them dearly to this day. And I appreciate them dearly to this very day. I'm a forgiving person because I knew I needed forgiveness too. Who am I to ask for forgiveness, but I refuse to forgive? Who am I to ask for mercy, but I refuse to have mercy? So, my brother, Larry Hoover, federal sentence, has been pardoned. 6 life sentences under federal law has been pardoned. And we know the politics in the game. I thank you, brother. I'm trying to see that name. Oh, it say Rights and Rituals 7. Man, I thought that was the name. Rights and Rituals 7 said, wait, he should be freed because his crimes have been paid for as far as time. I get it. So, the one thing that I don't want us to do is sit back and allow politics to take another life or create an image and narrative in our minds, indoctrinate us to believe that, in the words of Illinois' prosecutor who prosecuted Mr. Hoover, he said, I believe in mercy, I believe in redemption. He said, I also believe that there are some crimes so heinous, so breathtakingly evil that the justice system requires they be punished to the fullest extent of the law. We don't want to buy into that type of garbage. We don't want to buy into a crime being so heinous, so breathtakingly evil that they We don't want to buy into that garbage. We want to believe in second chances. We want to believe in second chances. We want to believe in second chances because we believe in God, Allah, Jehovah. We believe that everyone is deserving of mercy. How long does a man have to be in prison? How long does a man have to show that he's changed his life before we have mercy, before we forgive? Because if a person has to do anything, any amount of time, in order for us to forgive, then we got a problem. We're supposed to be forgiving in the very beginning. That doesn't mean that I agree with what you did. I just forgive you because I understand that we make mistakes. We do bad things. We wrong people. My forgiveness is not based on how long it's been since you committed your last wrong, your last lie. That ain't what my forgiveness is based on. In order for me to move forward in my life, I have to forgive on the front end, not the back end. In order for me to have mercy on people, I have to forgive on the front end, not the back end. Because soon as one of us or one of our family members get caught up in whatever the situation is, whether it's criminal or just something bad, first thing we ask God for is forgiveness. The first thing, and we haven't even proven that we ain't gonna do it again. But we ask for forgiveness. So the same way we ask for forgiveness in prayer, even before we have shown a reasonable amount of time from the last time that we did a certain wrong or whatever it is, same way that we ask God for that forgiveness is how we should be forgiving others. It's simple. And that's how I come up with my opinion on Larry Hoover. That's how I come up with my opinion on Larry Hoover being pardoned of his 6 life sentences under federal law. Sure, he still has 150 to 200 year sentence in the state, but I think I'm pretty confident to say that Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to pardon Larry Hoover. This man has spent over 50 years in prison. Over 50 years in prison. And he has definitely changed his life. And he definitely has the influence to help change the lives and the culture in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois and so many other states where young people, some of these young people are older now, believe me, they're 40 and 50. They look up to him. They hang on to his every word. And I think that my brother deserves a chance at freedom on the outside of prison. He's done many things on the inside of prison to change his life and show that he's changed his life. He is deserving for the opportunity to experience life on the outside of prison and contribute and be a productive citizen in society. Johnny Cage, yes, he does have 150 to 200 years in state prison, but we're confident that Governor J.B. Pritzker is going to pardon Mr. Hoover. So Mr. Hoover, who is 74 years old, can experience life outside of prison. So he can contribute positive energy, positive thought, positive development to the community, to the city, and to the state that he's so offended. We got to give him that second chance. We got to give him that second chance. If we don't give him the second chance, then we're not deserving of a second chance at anything that we do in life. I sit back and think of one of my homeboys who just came home last week. He served 47 years in prison. I mean, he was happy beyond words. As you can imagine, he was happy beyond words. And myself and a lot of my other friends, we have made sure that we put a force field of resources around him because we understand the challenges that he's going to face. Because many of us face those same challenges coming out after 28 years for me. Some of my other friends was 30, 35, 40 years, 45 years, 50 years. We understand all too well the challenges that someone faces when they coming out of prison. So we put a force field of resources around our brothers and sisters who exit the prison. They come to us, our collective body, and we make them feel at home. Not out of place, but at home. Not reminiscent of prison, but at home. We make them feel and know that they deserve to be right out here, outside of prison. They deserve to be a productive citizen of society. They deserve to be a productive member of our community. But this is the narrative that the government doesn't want our society to know. That when brothers like this get out, after all of these years, there's a network of us out here waiting on them, waiting to do whatever is necessary to facilitate their success, facilitate their transition. I got a lot of brothers in Chicago, sisters in Chicago, who help brothers to transition back in society. They walk with them, they talk with them, counsel them, provide resources. That's what we do. I don't know how not to do it. I don't know how not to do it because people did it for me after my 28 years in prison. They was right there. Never turned their back. Never said that they couldn't help me. If they did not know how to perform a certain task, they showed me somebody who did. And that's what's out here waiting on this brother. But listen, I'm not going to hold y'all up any longer. I appreciate everyone for listening. I appreciate everyone for listening, but I want to leave y'all with this right here. And it's very simple. Who are we as a people to say we believe in God, Allah, Jehovah, or whoever? Who are we to make such a profound statement but don't stand on it when it's time to forgive and have mercy on someone else. With that, I'm going to say peace and love to those within the sound of my voice. And for those who cannot hear the sound of my voice, I'm going to say pass along the message, because someone needs to be inspired. So, say peace to y'all.